Okay, thank you for the intro, Max. I am James Moncrief. I'm here to talk to you today. Let me set the scene for you. It's a Friday morning. You are the intelligence officer for your force area. You walk into the office in the morning, you put your coffee down on your desk, and you see a piece of paper on the desk. You pick it up and it's intel. It's for you. It's reliable intelligence to say that a young gang member from a well-known gang has been ordered to shoot a witness from a crime that night. You don't know which crime that witness is from. You don't know who the young gang member is. You don't know who the witness is. But what you do know in the intel is that that gun is going to be passed to that kid at a party that night. You need to find out where. Like I said, you don't even know what crime the witness is from. And the phone where the intel came from is now off. You're at a dead end. As luck would have it, did my cues work? Yep. As luck would have it, an older gang member from the same gang and a more influential gang member was arrested overnight for drug supply. That gang member is in custody downstairs, having been charged, and is going to go to court later today. You know, as the intel officer, that that gang member's got a very young daughter and a very, very sick mother. If he goes to prison, he will miss the first years of his daughter's life, and he will miss the last days of his mother's. He absolutely hates the police, and he despises grasses. In fact, he's probably removed a few himself. But if he gives you information, he could avoid prison. It's an absolute no-brainer to you. Why would you go to prison? But to him, the gang is his family, and he knows 100% if he is caught, he will be dead. It is a death sentence. So what do? Do you leverage the illness of his dying mother to get him to give you information? If you do, you get someone to cross their moral boundary. And if he's caught, he will die. If you don't, a witness will die that night. And believe it or not, this happens. So, what does this have to do with you? You might be thinking, why is James up there talking about informants and crime at a cyber conference? You might be wondering, why is that big oaf in the bus driver's shirt talking to you at all? But those who have seen me talk know that I tend to talk about non-security topics to security people. Why? Because security is real life as well, and we often forget that. And this is very close to home. This is the point where my voice goes wobbly. We'll power through and it will be fun. So, have you ever needed a business to limit their revenue or delay the release of their product for a security reason? Have you ever struggled to convince them to do so? You ever wonder why that is? Again, to you, it's a no-brainer. You know what it means if there's a cyber attack. It might mean there's no business at all for them to worry about. But do they believe you? Do they think it will really happen to them? In fact, have you said it 25 times before and it hasn't? Do they care? And if they don't care, why not? You care about their bottom line, don't you? And their customer satisfaction. At least we say we do, but we know about the bigger picture. Have you ever stopped to think about their bigger picture? And how do we get past that? Have you ever promised a child, preferably your own child, a treat for being well behaved? Have you ever lured a child with Santa's good list or threatened them with Santa's bad list? We do, don't we? We all have, because we manipulate our children just like they manipulate us by nature. It's what we do. We manipulate people. And is it the same in security? Have you ever used scaremongering to get the board to do something or to work in a secure way? Have you ever promised the lure of reward? If you get this certification, you're going to get so much more business. But it's okay, isn't it? Because we know about the bigger picture. Or do we sometimes delay productivity for something that might never happen? Manipulation is a dirty word. If I was a consultant to informants and I was asked, would you recommend that these people give information to police and risk their lives? 95% of the time, I would say definitely not. When I interviewed suspects in the past and I gathered a rapport with them, had a chat with them, maybe even leveraged their personal circumstances, was I genuinely their friend? Would I really have deported their other half back to their country in order if they didn't speak to me? Or did I manipulate them? What do leaders do in a transformation? Do they say everything's going to be okay? Hold back their true intentions, assuring themselves that it's their role and they're paid to do that, and after all, it is just business. Recruiting informants is a bit like sales. In sales, you need to convince someone to part with their money for something they may or may not need, with an outcome on the end. When you recruit an informant, you need to convince someone who hates you to do something they despise and have always despised, with a sentence of death on the end if they're caught. And yeah, we can protect our informants, we do, but how do you convince someone to do that? Well, you find leverage, you find their vulnerabilities, and you find a way. And regardless of which technique you use, the techniques are the same. You adapt your personality to that person. You be who that person needs you to be to trust you. You gather a rapport. You dangle a carrot and you push with a stick. Yeah, manipulation is a dirty word, but in security, we don't manipulate, do we? We influence. Are they different? The definition of influencing a person is having the capacity to affect the character, development, or behavior of that person. The definition of manipulating a person is to influence them in a clever or unscrupulous way. Clever or unscrupulous. Take unscrupulous out because our intentions are certainly moral. Do we influence people in a clever way? Do they in sales? Do we internally in cyber? And therefore, is it any different? International spy agencies. It is well known and publicised that in the past they have used the mnemonic mice for manipulation, money, ideology, coercion, and ego. Is that different in security? Take the so-called wonderful world of visionary leaders. They say, come with me and you'll get rich. Money. Come with me and do what you believe in. Ideology. Come with me and show them what you're made of. Ego. Don't come with me, and the only way is out the door. Coercion. Happens every day. And is it morally correct? Is it morally correct for a business to thrive in the face of redundancy? Well, for that person who's paid to do exactly that for their job, yeah, sure. Is it morally correct to prevent a cyber incident that may or may not happen, even though you disrupt productivity and potentially ruin someone's chance at a bonus, to make sure you do it? Again, yes, it is morally correct. It's what we're paid to do. But does it take into account the needs of those those people? And normally, no. And that changed my perspective on what we do and why we're here to do it. I was a career changer. I was a detective, proactive, reactive investigation, worked in intelligence, ended up working in covert policing, with informants. And I came into information security. Some of you know me from the very beginning when I came in. I came in with fresh eyes, looked at things a bit differently, and my eyes told me something wasn't quite right in how we talk about culture change, how we try to convince people to do things. Writing a security strategy is an art in itself, to do it actually well. But enabling that strategy, where it conflicts with the bottom line and productivity of the people we seek to protect, is actually another challenge altogether. And there may be a reason for that. Despite my ability to influence, and it's not bad, I realized that the buy-in I was getting was rare at the emotional root of a person. People were becoming compliant. They weren't committed to what I was saying. And take compliance. Compliance is different in a regulated or unregulated industry, but in compliance, you've got the luxury to lean on people and say, well, you have to do it because of the FCA or PCI or SOX, HIPAA, DORA, whatever it might be. But those people, when you say you have to do it, if there's ever a reason they think, oh, in this case, I don't actually have to, quite innocently, they won't. Take GDPR, for example. We all know vendors did very, very well out of GDPR. It changed the face of security. Everyone dived in and people started to understand and why. But how often did you deal with people during the GDPR phase and people would say to you, oh no, we don't have to be secure this time. There's no personal data. We don't have to do it because there's no PII. Compliance can actually be a problem in getting the message across. If you take the 4 emotional positions of people during a transformation in business or in a security transformation, people who aren't moving forward can be helped. Those who aren't bought in and aren't moving forward often have a fear of letting go of the past. And they can be shown that the past is gone This is the way it is. We need to move. People who are bought in, they get it, they understand, but they're still not moving forward. It's usually because they've got a fear of embracing the future. They're tentative. And we see this all the time with changing technology and admins who are worried about going to the new type of tooling that's coming out. And they can be shown that it will be okay. They will be relevant. But those who appear to be moving forward, one of the two types that are moving forward, is actually the most dangerous of all. Those who are moving forward but are not bought in to the message are compliant. They are not committed. And the compliant will smile and they will do what they have to do. And they're the ones that then behind the scenes will talk about the problems with it, talk to their team, moan a little bit, whine a little bit, sow seeds of doubt and break morale in the team, especially for those who aren't moving forward yet. And if they realize in a moment, either they don't need to do it this time or they won't get caught, those are the people that will go round it. And actually, those are often the most disgruntled people when it comes to mergers, acquisitions, and transformations. Let's flip that around. When I worked in retail with Matt Adcock, I saw that gaining influence in an unregulated environment is actually much, much harder. But when you do get buy-in, it's much, much stronger because you have to get people to understand why. You take them past needing to be secure into wanting to be secure. You show them that what's important to them is actually what's important to us. That's why we preserve it. We want to preserve their value chains, maintain their successes, lift their livelihood, just like we want to do for ourselves. But where do you start with that? You can take the psychological journey of a consumer during marketing. A few people here will know about that. It starts when they're unaware of your product. Then they become aware of your product. Then they understand what it does. Then they appreciate that it's good. Then they become convinced that it's right for them, so they buy it. And if it goes well, they commit to buying it. Why don't we use that when we talk about security? Why don't we think about that when we think about where someone is in their understanding? They're unaware that security even exists. Then they become aware that there might be phishing attacks and there's something called encryption and security is important somewhere. Then they begin to understand what it is. Oh, it's so that we don't lose the confidentiality of our data, so we don't lose availability of our systems. Then they appreciate it. Now I know why it's important. Then they become convinced to apply it. Actually, this is relevant to me. I need to protect my assets. So they do. They become secure. And then, if it goes well, they become a spokesperson for that. They become proactively accountable. They start to manage their work securely. We don't look at that. But how do you do that? Where do you even start with that? Well, by connecting with people. Over a decade of training and experience gave me a strong EQ. But I realized it was strong on the surface. And I asked myself, why was that? Again, when it's manipulation and it's influence, it is on the surface. So I studied everyone around me, as I always do. And I saw that the work we are doing was for the greater good, but it wasn't for the people's greater good. And it's a mistake we actually make every day in cyber. We care about the bottom line. Well, we say we do, but do we? Or do we actually just push people into a shallow and compliant culture that makes them less and less bought in? We needed to go deeper. By connecting with people, maybe we could make the influence their own influence on themselves. By connecting with people, maybe we could make the greater good everyone's greater good if they just understood why. Somewhere security became about compliance, and that's not why we got into it. We got into it to protect and guide the people, not to buy tools for the sake of it and catch people for their mistakes and point the finger, but to protect our objectives, our staff and our customers. And so in realizing that, my EQ journey really began, despite all that training before. I've studied people all my life. It's what I do. I've said that. But always for my own objectives. I've said that too. Then one day, I got coached. Just a random opportunity at work to see an executive coach. And for the first time ever, someone was studying me while I was talking. They were watching me. They were watching my body language. And actually, they were listening to me with the full force of their attention. I could feel it. Everything I said was considered. Every question they asked led me deeper and deeper into my own self-discovery. And I realized then what was missing. It's what InfoSec is missing. We don't listen. We understand what matters, sure, we do. We look at the objectives. If we're clever enough, we look at the business and what really matters and why. But we only understand what matters for the business, not for individuals that we're actually trying to convince to come over to our way. And so I trained as an ICF coach, now a qualified coach. I run a side business, hit me up if you're interested. And I started to put my skills to the test, again, studying everyone, but now thinking about manipulation, influence, and listening. And yeah, people do desire the same as us. They just need it in different ways. The problem is, we do a lot of talking. Without listening, we can only prescribe. And if we prescribe methods and outcomes that don't resonate with people, we can't make a dent in their culture. And believe it or not, as much as it's important to us or sexy to us, a lot of people simply don't care. The things we say do not resonate. But if we listen and we ask the right questions, because we know it's true, people can figure it out for themselves. Then you start to see change. You ever had a personal trainer breathing down your neck even though you're gasping for air? You ever had a manager tell you to do something else even though your deadlines are stacked and he wants it by Friday or she wants it by Friday? Have you ever had security tell you to drop everything just as you're about to release your product by the deadline? Or have you ever been that security person telling them to drop everything because of what you want them to fix? Quite often, I'm sure. In those scenarios, how often did we really listen to that person? And so that brings me to coaching. Coaching is often confused with mentoring, and I'm not suggesting anyone be a coach. What I'm talking about here is shift in your mind. Coaching is often confused with mentoring, which it is not. Coaching, mentoring, and consultancy are different things. And in security, even if we work in-house, we are consultants. We're consultants because we don't own the asset. We prescribe and we advise. It's what we do. It's what we're paid to do. But in consultancy, they see, they advise, and then they give the grandkids back and they go away. What if you can't? What if you can't give the grandkids back? What if the pain will not go away? Yeah, we can hold people accountable and say, well, we told you. But that doesn't fulfill our needs. We don't want to say, I told you so, when we're still dealing with 6 months of ransomware attack and, potentially losing the business. We need them to buy in emotionally. And if cold prescription doesn't do it, what does? Let me ask you, when you've presented to the board or anyone, have you ever delivered your presentation by asking them questions? Have you ever stopped when you've asked those questions and listened and held the silence to see what they say next after their answer, and then hold that silence a little bit more? If a business owner told you before you presented to them, I just want to know what to fix and get on with it, or I just want to accept the risks and do nothing about it, or I really want to do this, I really want to be secure, but I need your help prioritizing, would you approach each presentation differently? I would hope you would. In a presentation, or conducting an audit, or in a one-to-one with your staff or your boss, have you ever asked them when you start, what are you looking to achieve from this conversation? What would success look like in that for this conversation? How might we measure that success? And what would it mean to you? Right, it takes 2 to 5 minutes of your 30-minute one-to-one to have those conversations. And you see what direction that sets you in for those conversations, especially if you're delivering a presentation to people. Listening changes the dynamic. And I don't mean hearing. I mean disciplined listening, like you're all doing now, which is lovely. Disciplined listening is the absolute commitment of your focus. Have you ever been listening to someone, be honest with yourselves, and you've asked a question and they're answering, especially in a sales presentation, and you're thinking so hard about your next question, you realize you haven't heard what they said. Or suddenly they turn around and say, what do you think? And you go, I was thinking of my next question. It happens all the time. Have you ever been chatting to someone, telling them something, even something important, and they're already nodding, waiting for you to finish so that they can reply because they've already decided what they want to say, even though you haven't delivered your punchline yet? all the time. It's really frustrating. Your inner monologue will always win. Everyone here, every single one of you. The discipline is in switching it off. Being genuinely listened to will endear a person to an encounter so that they walk away feeling positive no matter what happens. And if you do that piece by piece with an engineer, with a VP, with the CTO, with whoever else, you watch the change in your organization with how they see you and how they listen to what you say. When you ask the right questions, listen, hold the silence, we're going to talk about that, and then slowly move towards, you can slowly move people towards realizing things for themselves. And when they do, was it still your idea? Was it their idea? Does it matter? Did you manipulate them? Or did they just realize that what you were saying made sense all along? Either way, we got there, somewhere where we often don't get. Imagine being a business leader when security finally understands what you do, what your value chains are, and what your challenges are, for real, for you as a person. And you see that they want you to succeed, and that the risks they're talking about could disrupt them. If you are presenting to a CTO, let's just say, sorry, 1 second, I'm drying out. If you were presenting to a CTO they had old technology, absolutely no buy-in, they just weren't interested in security. What if instead of presenting to them, you asked them questions? What if you said, what do you want this organization to become? What do you want to achieve this year? What would it mean to you if you do? What would it mean to the business? On a scale of 1 to 10, how far are you from realizing that reality? What else would you need to get there? Could you get there faster with a bigger budget and better technology? What if that technology saved you costs in the long run? Who are your biggest customers? What would happen to your bottom line if those customers pulled out for a breach of contract? Are you aware that based on that contract, they may well do if they discover your array of end-of-life systems? What would happen to your bottom line if you had to divert $10 million to incident response? What would happen to your bottom line if your system and data was gone for 3 weeks or could never be recovered? Hypothetically, if a risk assessment said that the cost of your investment could speed up your capability by this much and reduce the loss expectancy of what we just talked about by way more than your initial investment, would you spend it? And there are better ways to ask that question. And they may or may not say yes. But what we just did was use the most basic coaching structure, the GROW model. Goals, reality, options, and will. What do they want? Where are they now and why? What can they do about it? And how do we ensure they do it? But what we actually did was we provided exactly the same information that we would have provided in a presentation. We told them what matters. We told them what was missing. We told them what could happen, and we told them what they needed to do. But instead, they realized it for themselves, and they chose to do it. And that's a very, very different outcome. It's a simple method, but that demonstrates how we can allow people to explore their own situation, make informed decisions, just by changing the conversation structure. What about your direct reports? A man called Goldman said that there's 6 leadership styles. People have different opinions. Coercive leadership, do as I say. Visionary leadership, come with me. Affiliative, people come first. Democratic, what do you think? Pace setting, do as I do now. And coaching, try this. All have purpose in places. All are good and all are bad in the right places. But what about getting people to want to go with you, do what you do, provide their expertise as input, and move at a pace that gets them noticed, all because they were listened to, properly listened to, free of judgment, and allowed to see that their values actually aligned with what you were doing, and they realized their options to achieve what they believed in. Take that outside of your staff. If you identify the values, objectives, and self-limiting beliefs of different people in your business before you present to them, it can enable you to speak to people on a level that they've never been supported on before. Imagine, this is too many slides, I think. Imagine staff that not only want to be there, that are proud to represent you, know you'll protect them and know you'll shout for them, and imagine a business that doesn't skirt around compliance and wants to be secure just as much as they want to succeed. What have you put the two together? Now, the basic methods are simple. The coaching mindset is about curiosity and patience, understanding people's needs, listening, holding the silence and asking the right questions to get them to their own conclusions, and then hold themselves accountable. You can give your feedback, sure, but again, why not ask about it? We call it holding up the mirror in coaching. But if you want to give your feedback to someone or your observation, why not ask their permission? Do you mind if I give you an observation? And then when you have given it, ask them how that feels. Ask them why they think that might be. Ask what it means to them. It doesn't hurt and it changes everything. I said hold the silence. It's awkward, isn't it? It's really, really awkward. I was intending to hold that much longer, but I found it awkward. It's really, really awkward to hold the silence with someone. You ask them a question, they answer, and you stare at them nicely, but you have to remember that they are finding it awkward too. Coaching, I'll say a bit more about that in a second, but coaching is about curiosity and patience. And it's really important to realize that the first answer someone gives you isn't the whole answer. Let's say you ask someone who's refusing to do a fix on their application, when do you need to release your product by? And they say tomorrow. And you nod, and you wait, and they get awkward, and you get awkward, and you wait. And then they answer again, well, the boss says it has to be done tomorrow. But actually, the customer expects it next week. And then you wait, and then you wait. And then they say, well, even then, it's actually scheduled for in a month when we put it out publicly. And that comes out. And no matter what it is, that's what happens when you hold the silence. So you can now ask, so if you were to fix it now within a week, which is what you've said it would take, half a sprint, and that critical flaw would be gone, which then guarantees your release and puts you in a better position to present your findings, your security findings, to protect prospective customers, would you do it? You wouldn't be able to ask that question previously. Again, might not be the best example. I had to come up with one. You need to have them on the fly. But it's vital that we listen to people. It's vital. That tells us what we need to reply to. And predetermined questions are our conversations. They're not their conversations, and they need their conversations. Who's seen Wolf of Wall Street? Yeah, good film. There's a scene where Jordan Belfort is training his misfits to sell on the phone in their new business. And he drops the price and he says, and you wait. And whoever speaks first loses. He says that. In coaching, nobody loses, but whoever speaks first genuinely sets the direction of the conversation. Whoever speaks first decides where it's going to go. And you can't ask the right question until you understand what's beneath the iceberg. You have to get their true answer. And if not, there are other techniques as well. This, just some to help you. You've all heard of mirrored questionings. Questions at the end of a sentence. You can repeat back someone's question. But again, it's not about manipulation. It's about how they perceive that conversation. You say to someone, oh, where were you yesterday? Oh, I went to InfoSec. You went to InfoSec? And they'll go, yeah, InfoSec. InfoSec? Yeah, it's a big, massive cyber conference. There's all sorts of things there. There's all sorts of things there? Yeah, there's like stands and, games and speakers. There's speakers? Yeah, there was this like bald, sort of semi-handsome speaker called James. And it goes on and on and on, whatever that might be. But you wait and you see how warm someone leaves that conversation just by doing that. And we talk about it, we talk about these techniques, but genuinely you can try it. This is not a prescription. It's just a thought, and I've talked a lot, but it's about taking away, the takeaway is about a shift in conversation. And actually you just need the confidence to try it. And you can actually try it in low risk conversations. So I'm going to issue you a challenge. Some of you are here today, some of you are here for 2 days or 3 days on your rooftop bars or here or whatever you do while you're at InfoSec. Try it when you're talking to someone. Ask them a question, see what they answer with, hold the silence. Again, Low risk conversations. If you're about to, land the biggest deal of your life as a vendor, don't do it. Potentially, you might actually get it that way, but I don't want to be accountable for that. But try it with someone who you might never see again. Just hold the silence, and they'll think this is awkward. But as soon as they answer, you get into a conversation again, and things spiral. Or try the mirrored questions, and just see what happens. I guarantee they walk away with a grin, saying, "I love that person." Couple of pieces just before I close off. A man called David McClellan said that people are motivated by power, affiliation, or achievement. And that's really, really important to understand. When you talk to someone, there's nothing wrong with any of them. Everyone's motivated differently. But if you are talking to someone and you're going to present to them or anything, if you ask open questions about their career, their team, their objectives, that can tell you a lot about what they're motivated by. And then that can tell you exactly what you need to know in order to set your pitch to their tone and become the person that they need you to be to trust you. And there's so much more. But the key here is flip the conversation, be curious, be patient, and see what happens. So to close, I'll ask you this. If you could work at an organization that knows at every level that security can boost productivity to the same extent as sales and development, would you? If you realized that it might only cost you a new approach to your communications and the confidence to try it, would you begin today? By all means, manipulate and influence your staff, customers, and stakeholders for your objectives. But if you allow them to manipulate themselves for their own gain, you will deliver tenfold on yours. And that's the end of the talk. Thank you. Cheers.